All right, gentlemen. How's everybody doing this morning?
Not too bad. Not too bad. Could be worse, I suppose. How about you, Drew?
Doing great, doing good. Glad to be sitting here with you boys.
So
Oh
this
yeah.
is this is a fun episode. We got 3 out of 4 of the Masters on this episode. This is something that this is kind of the idea behind the show that I had in mind is yeah, everybody is going to have episodes where it's just me and them, but then there's going to be the really fun episodes every now and again where we get sometimes two or three of us in here, sometimes all of us in here, sometimes it might just be one of us in here, who knows, but it's kind of a gamble with who you're going to get every week, and I think that's going to make it exciting for our audience to be like, oh, I wonder who's on next week. um so I want to know, it's been a little bit since the show started. As we're recording, Drew, you were 2 weeks ago. Zed, you were 3 weeks ago. How do you
Yeah.
guys feel now that the show is starting to take out, like get going and kick off? And I think this right here is episode actually 6, I believe. Maybe five.
Wow.
Damn.
Five. It's either 5 or 6. So I mean, we've gotten a few under our belt at this point. So how, Zed, how are you? You were the first ever master to be revealed. How are you feeling about this so far?
First and foremost, that was sort of like that was an honor. It was a big deal. It was something that was very exciting and to see how folks enjoyed it and the likes and the shares and the comments and just it was a huge reception and I was very, very stoked about that. So yeah, just first and foremost, thank you guys so much for having me here. And also thank you to the audience for all of the well wishes, the listens, the comments, the upvotes, just everything. The shares. I mean, there are folks just sharing the video, talking about it that they didn't have to do that, but they did it out of the kindness of their heart, and that's what this community is all about. Is just everybody helping each other from the kindness of their hearts, and yeah, great reception, great reception.
Yeah, like real quick, and then Drew, I'll let you go, but I want to give a huge shout out right now to Cinema Chris in particular. Now there has been so many members of our awesome community over on TikTok, which if you were listening to this and you were not following any of us on TikTok, what are you doing here? You got to go follow us on TikTok because that's how you get
God dang.
more of our awesomeness over there, talking about movies, physical media, all that stuff. But I got to give a huge shout out to one member of our amazing community in particular, and that's Cinema Chris. He's at Cinema Vault on TikTok. He just made a friggin' video talking about us. Just gave us a huge shout out on his platform. Used his platform unasked. We didn't ask him to do anything of the sort, and just out of the kindness of his heart and out of his own enjoyment for our show, decided to go and pimp our show out on his platform. It was it was an amazing shout out. We all are so touched and so humbled by the reception for our shows, and we want to just thank you guys all because like it's been amazing seeing this. And it's surreal to think that like all of you guys care enough to tune in to hear what we have to say about movies and stuff, to make our voices heard and stuff. So thank you all for that. Thank you, Cinema Chris. And like we can't wait to have a few of you guys, Cinema Chris included, on the show as guests as well in the future. So you guys can all look forward to
And
that.
and just to say, just to interrupt Drew, just one more time, just before he can talk. Drew, just wait one more second, Drew. Just want to say, yeah, Chris, amazing video, completely unprovoked. Nobody asked him to do that. Amazing. Drew, just make sure to just slide in my DMs real quick, and then the $20 that we agreed on in PayPal, I'll slide you the $20. But yeah, completely unprovoked, guys. That was so amazing of him. Drew, what do you think about the podcast?
It's been amazing. It's been a lot of fun. I've been enjoying just being able to talk to you guys in general about movies and physical media, and then just to have people that are tuning in and listening to it and enjoying it and liking and connecting with it. It's just awesome. It's what it's all about. And right now I feel like the physical media side on TikTok is just amazing. I feel like everyone is so nice and accepting and welcoming. So I'm excited, and I'm excited to keep it going.
Heck yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, I as the person, the this being my brainchild, I have to give a huge personal thank you to each of the guys that are in this that I have so affectionately call my peanut gallery,
Hmm.
my fellow masters of matinee, Zed, Drew, Teo. Teo's not here today, but all three of you guys, we've had amazing episodes, and I don't have a drink here to cheers, but to many more with you guys because this is an absolute
Sure.
blast.
Huzzah!
Skull. Um,
Skull.
so Drew actually has a water bottle. Okay. All right. So being that this is not just a movie podcast, it's a movie podcast with an emphasis on physical media, I want to go over what everybody has picked up. Not like every pickups, but just kind of like the notable ones, the ones that you're kind of digging and feeling more since the last time we spoke. So, Drew, if you want to start us out, what have you picked up lately that you're pretty stoked on?
So I could not wait. I immediately went to Barnes and Nobles the second that the 50% off sale happened. I have a pretty stacked Barnes and Nobles next to me, luckily. So I just went in there and I picked up a handful of things that I'm pretty excited about. I got another Terry Gilliam movie. You know, I'm a huge fan of him. It was The Adventures of Baron Munchausen. I just watched that last night. It was amazing.
Baron Munchausen.
Munchausen, yeah. It was amazing. It was fun. It was imaginative. But other than that, I got the Thelma and Louise 4K. I was really hyped about that. And then I think other than that, I got Paris, Texas, which I don't know much about, but I've heard amazing things and I've been dying to see it. So I'm excited about those a lot. And I'm excited to finally get to see them in the Criterion format with all that bonus material.
Yeah, I am at this point just waiting for my turn to go and hit the sale. That Thelma and Louise 4K is for sure on my list.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to get like on my list. I want to get a couple. Like I'm missing a couple of the Wes Anderson movies out of the
Yeah.
Criterion Collection. I saw that you did a video recently rating all of Wes Anderson. So like
Mm-hmm.
I have not seen Asteroid City yet, which we're going to talk about why because of theaters and stuff here in a bit.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'm probably going to wait till that comes out on Blu-ray. But I
Sure.
think in the Criterion Collection, I'm missing Life Aquatic and Bottle Rocket, and so I really
Okay.
want to get those on this sale.
Yeah.
And that was another thing too, Drew. I wanted to maybe an episode before July is out, while the sale's still going on. I want to make an episode with you, even if it's just a short little episode. I want to make an episode with you and make our like Criterion recommendations, like go over what we out of our own collections and make a list of, because like I know that you actively collect Criterion, as do I.
Yes.
So I want to I would like to make that episode with you. Zedzilla. What have you found lately in the Big Lots, in the Goodwills and the thrifting? What you got for us?
Yeah, baby. So as of recently, Zed's been sort of out of commission when it comes to going out and about hunting, but I did do a couple purchases on eBay, and I think the one that is most of note, at least for me, is I got this Peanuts, Charles Schultz's Peanuts,
Mm-hmm.
Charlie Brown. I got probably the three most notable specials, which is the Thanksgiving, Christmas, and Halloween specials. I guess several years back now. I mean, I don't know how long Apple TV or Apple Plus or whatever they call it has been a thing, but they bought the distribution rights for a lot of the Charles Schultz library. So a lot of the Peanuts are now exclusively shown on Apple TV, which I think is a real shame because for, the 40, 50 years that it was almost exclusively shown on ABC, I felt was kind of like let's call it like a fundamental right for, just people in general. I mean, kids and adults alike to watch something like that every year, and for it to be now exclusively on a streaming platform through a paywall. I know not everybody has ABC, but I think a large majority of people have access to ABC over Apple TV. So for that to go away, I felt was just really alarming and also just saddening. So my goal is to just buy up as much Charlie Brown as I can so that I have them in my collection, not just because I'm a huge Charlie Brown fan, but because I think it's just something that we need to enjoy every year. It's sort of the feeling that I had with them being Apple, or no, them being Max, HBO Max. Warner Brothers bought Sesame Street. So Sesame Street is
Mm-hmm.
no longer public access.
Mm-hmm.
It's behind the paywall of Max. And that I think is even more of a shame. Like Sesame
Yeah.
Street should be available to anybody and everybody. And if Max came out and said, "Hey, we're going to go the Peacock route, and there's going to be certain things that are available to everybody, but you still have to download our app," cool. But Max hasn't that, and Sesame Street is just not accessible to kids nowadays.
S-
It's just like a lot of those things. I think they should be for everybody.
to be fair, and I don't like to be the guy that defends Apple because I don't like Apple, but to be fair to Apple, when the holidays did come, I'm like 99% sure they did make it to where you could stream those Peanuts movies. Like at Christmas time, you could stream Charlie Brown Christmas, and at Halloween time, you could stream Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown, and stuff without
Okay,
having to pay
cool.
for a sub. Like you just had to have an account, and it didn't have to be an active
Sure.
sub, and they made it free. Which is
Okay.
how like if a streamer does that, then I'm still like, I'm a little bit scared because they might not always do it that way. Because I think even after the season was over, then you had to go back to like they went back to paywalling it.
Yeah.
But I mean, to their credit, they did at least do that because they realized that these movies are beloved. These TV movies specials
They're
are absolutely
traditions.
beloved, and they're traditions and stuff. And they didn't want to do that. The only problem that I have is that it's not more that they put it behind a paywall when it's off season. It's that they don't, there's still millions of Americans out there that don't stream. Like streaming, yes, it is now
Yeah.
taken over for the most part, but they're like the people who probably the old heads who hold those movies, really, they watched them probably when they first freaking aired. Probably are not streaming, especially not streaming on Apple TV Plus. They can't even freaking work the Roku. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't mean to say that to be offensive to anybody who loves those
That's
movies.
just how it is.
But like, there's still millions of people out there who don't stream. So they took that away from television stations being able to play those shows.
And I wonder how many Jims and Judys over the years have gone to, like, imagine that first year when A Charlie Brown Christmas didn't air, and those Jims and Judys, going to ABC, and just the disappointment and just like the confusion that
Right.
must have washed over them when they're like, this has been airing for decades of my life.
Mhm.
Where is it?
Every year I was growing up.
So it's one of those things that I want to just have that library. And luckily I've already had, a good chunk of the Charlie Brown stuff since I am a big fan of the Peanuts. But that box set was too good to pass up. The three, I think, the most prominent, the most beloved specials. So I picked that up. Everything else is not really of note, just little things here and there. But that right there had value to me. So
Which ones were
what about?
it? What was it? Was it Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas?
Yeah, it was Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And there's other really great, like, I don't think there's a bad special, but those I think have
No.
the most sentimental value, the most
right.
again, tradition around them. It's one of those things that when those holidays come around, before I go to bed that night, I'm popping that in and spending the 25 minutes to revisit, Linus and the Pumpkin Patch.
Right.
That's just what I'm going to do. So
And
just wanted to have those available.
Just to confirm, you still have not found a copy of Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase.
All right, listen. I gotta go. I have to go water my cactus. No, I've not. I haven't gotten out in a few weeks now. And it's one of those things, there are certain movies. I only really buy box sets or like collector's stuff off of eBay because the likelihood I find it in my stores is very low. But when it comes to just like, I'm not going to buy Sausage Party off of eBay.
Right.
I'm not going to do that. But if I find it at Goodwill or Big Lots, I'll think about picking it up. So it's one of those movies that I love hunting. I love the randomness of it. I love going to a Goodwill, and it's just like a goodie bag. Like when I was growing up, going to the Salvation Army with Grandma and Grandpa, right before you walked out the door, there was this little shelf full of brown, like those little brown paper baggies, just full of toys and random stuff. And from the price of $1 to $5, you could pick out the different ranges of these goodie bags. That's what going to Goodwill for me is like. You never know what you're going to get. You may score a really great box set there, or you may come home with a pile of movies that were, what do you guys call them when you like blind buys? Just a pile of blind buys that you're like, well, there's nothing that I wanted necessarily, but these looked interesting. And that's what I love about Goodwill is just you never know what you're going to get.
Right. So just so the audience knows, because we haven't talked about this on pod yet. If you guys know us, you know that Zed and I are Wonder Twins. We look similar.
Amen.
We have similar personalities, and we make very similar content on the TikTok. So we have a bet going. The first person who can find a copy of Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase as the Supreme Wonder Twin. And Zed, if you buy it off of eBay, that's cheating. You have to find it in the wild.
I absolutely would not. I would not do that.
It has to be in like a Walmart bin, or which you don't even have a Walmart. So it has to be like at
Walmart,
at a Goodwill or somewhere like that, or a Target or wherever you're going to get your movies. But it has to be out in the wild, physically hunting for it. But we have a bet. Whoever gets a copy of Scooby-Doo Cyber Chase, and it can be on VHS too. It can be on VHS, DVD. I know there's no Blu-ray of it, but it can be on tape or on disc. But whoever finds that copy first is the superior Wonder Twin.
I already owe Cinema Chris that $20 for the. Or sorry, I shouldn't say that here. No. Oh, shh. No. So I already owe him $20 for something completely different. So I'll just slide him an extra 10 to buy Cyber Chase off of eBay for me, because technically I wouldn't be buying it. So easy peasy, Chris. $30 coming your way, baby. PayPal down in the comments.
No, I mean, I can send my copy to either one of you real quick. You know.
You have a copy?
Yeah, I have a copy of the Cyber Chase.
Oh man,
it's wonderful. It's such.
I love it.
I won't say it's my favorite, because that era of the direct video with Zombie Island and Cyber Chase and The Witch's Ghost and Alien Invaders, those are just something special. And I want them. I'm so close to completing that collection. I just need like The Witch's Ghost, Alien Invaders. I'm not close at all. I just named all of them, and I'm not even close at all.
The only one I have is Zombie Island. That's all I have.
Zombie Island is so good. And then they absolutely ruined it with the sequel a couple of years back.
They made a sequel?
Return to Zombie Island. And it was one of those where they basically said everything that you remember the original, remember how good it was? That was basically a reality TV show, and everything was fake. And it's like, no, what made those that era of Scooby-Doo so good when it came to the direct-to-video was no longer were there, bad bankers and thieves behind the mask. These were actual ghosts, actual zombies. These were actual monsters that the Mystery Inc. was facing off against. And that's what was so exciting. And then 20 years later, you're going to come back and be like, it was a reality TV show, like Snooki. And it's like, you got to be kidding me. Like, I love everything that Warner Brothers is doing with Scooby-Doo as of lately. Not everything. Scoob was not good at all. But like when it comes to the direct to DVD movies, they're so good. Scoob was bad.
I didn't see Scoob either, but there's a lot of like praise for it that I saw. A lot of people liked it.
What a lot of people really want is Holiday Haunt, which was the sequel that they were making for Max that was shelved alongside like Batgirl and all those movies. That was one of the Holiday Haunt was a finished movie, that they just shelved. A lot of people want to see that because it's Scooby-Doo. Scooby-Doo still has a massive
Oh yeah.
fan base. Even though a lot of his physical media and just media in general is behind paywalls, like through the DVDs and through I believe he has a show on Max, like where they go back to the celebrity guest aspect of it all, where each episode has like Whoopi Goldberg or Santa Claus and what have you. And then also the Velma series, which absolutely,
That was rough.
yeah,
I
that's a
haven't watched
completely
it.
different story.
I
But
haven't watched it,
anyway,
but I know that's so divisive that I don't really want to talk about it.
yeah, suffice to say, it's getting a season 2, and people are really don't understand why. And maybe they can course correct. Listen, there's a lot of shows that are not good or are just okay that really come swinging back in their second season. Maybe Velma will. Who's to say? But Scooby
I
Doo is
just
a huge property that is still beloved by so many. And it's nice to see that there's still media coming out. Same thing that goes back to like the Peanuts. It's so good that after so long, 5 decades, 6 decades, 7 decades, whatever it might be of these characters, that they are still as relevant as ever. That's
So
a beautiful thing.
So you're telling me Warner Brothers Discovery threw Batgirl away, which is mostly completed, but they're bringing back
no, it
Velma
is
for a season
completed.
2?
No, Batgirl was
It is completely
100%
complete.
completed. I mean, I remember reading that story and being absolutely disgusted. The creators of it, like the director and the producer, were literally together, and they literally couldn't even keep a copy for themselves. HBO Max or Warner Brothers was like, we're taking it all. It's all going away because they write it off as a tax credit, so they get money back for it. But they were like, we spent 8 months on this movie, if not longer. And this is Brandon Fraser was supposed to be the villain. I mean, he was supposed to be in 2 decently big movies that year, and they just took it right away from him, never to be seen. It's gone. It literally cannot be. If they release it, if they bring it out, they have to pay an absurd fine because of like what they're doing now. It takes it away, and it's just disgusting. I just hate that.
That is,
It's
I hate Discovery.
oh, go ahead.
Like Discovery's
Mhm.
awful. They're just an awful company.
They have Discovery's merger has done a lot of damage to Max. I still think Max can recover from it, but the fact that there are movies that were exclusive to Max or like I want to talk about Disney here in a second, but like Max, one of the ones that they took off was An American Pickle,
Yeah.
which was one of their first movies that they were advertising the streaming service for. Like, new Seth Rogen movie by Max, beautiful new streaming service, and then now it doesn't exist. I don't know if there's a physical.
I was going to say, I don't think it did.
Unless there's people out there making homebrews or bootlegs, whatever you want to call them for it.
Assuredly is.
It doesn't exist. And like Disney this week, a couple days ago, or maybe even yesterday, who's to say, there was a movie that it was an $80 million movie called Crater. And it was, I believe it went straight to Disney Plus, which it was a fine movie. I watched it. I try to watch every new Disney thing that they put out. And it's just a group of kids that grew up on the moon, and they have to basically complete one of the kids' father's dying wish to go to this one crater on the moon and see what's there for him to see, something about his mother and father. And it's this beautiful, very profound movie. The ending absolutely just broke me. Like, my chest was so tight and hurting. It was wonderful. It came out like 3 weeks ago. It doesn't exist anymore.
Damn.
It doesn't exist anymore. It's
That's
completely
crazy.
gone. I hate that. And the Mighty Ducks, everybody loves the Mighty Ducks. And they had a return with the Mighty Ducks Game Changers television show. They did 2 seasons of that. A couple of weeks after the second season came out, they were both taken off of Disney Plus. An exclusive series gone. It's like that sort of stuff. It irks me. Like, I understand the reasonings. Like, if you explain to me low viewership, or hey, there was this one song that was really expensive, so we couldn't pay for it anymore. Fine, what have you. But like 3 weeks and it's gone.
Yeah.
This is not the theater experience, folks.
Well, and you know that the lower viewership thing, that's just a bullshit metric that they're using to justify a tax write off. Like,
Yes,
Sure, yeah.
it's
So-
all money. It's all money. It's crazy.
yeah. So I do want to know, while we're on the subject of Disney messing up, what do you guys think? What was the movie? The French Connection, right?
Yeah, the
Yeah.
French Connection.
What do you guys think about them censoring that?
Wait, the French Connection or the French Dispatch?
No, the French Connection.
Connection? Yeah.
I don't even. I feel like I was told about that, and I was like, do research, but I feel like I didn't, so I may not be the best one to answer this question. So Drew, what do you think?
Well, so there was the movie The French Dispatch was on Disney Plus. Actually, no, it was on the Criterion Channel. It wasn't even on Disney Plus. It was on the Criterion Channel, and but Disney owns it. I think it's part of their 20th Century Fox like partnership or not, or ownership, whatever, part of the
Merger.
library. Yeah, the merger. And the character in it is racist and prejudiced and stuff.
Oh,
character.
yes.
And he says a slur like 10 minutes into the movie or something like that. And on the Criterion Channel, they went and removed it. And then everybody was like, what the hell? Like, I mean, it's one thing to talk about racial slurs and stuff, but like, you can't censor that. You can't take old movies and remove stuff like that. It completely, like, where's that line then? If you're going to do that with old movies,
Are we going to start censoring Tarantino? I mean, Pulp Fiction is just slur after slur sometimes. I mean, not the whole movie, obviously, but there's certain stories that it's like, yeah, that is bad and terrible, and you shouldn't say that shit. But like, there's certain stories that are told where if you have a character like that, it adds to the story in a way to where it's like a learning situation. And especially like that movie, The French Connection, because it all comes back around, So it's like, I just find that so crazy. It's just weird to see what we're doing with this like digital media situation. Like, I think stuff is starting to happen that we didn't even really like think about. But now that it's all digital, they're like, oh, let's go back and change this 1970 movie because it says a bad word. And it's like, I don't know. Maybe just don't put the movie on your platform if you have that big of a deal with it. I don't think we need to change it.
Well, so it wasn't Criterion who did it. And they said they weren't sure if Disney did it. And then Disney said the director did it. So if that's true.
I didn't see that.
Yeah, if that's true. Now, I've never seen The French Dispatch. I don't know.
Were we talking about the Dispatch, or were we talking about
the
Connection?
I'm
confused now.
Yeah,
Connection.
Wes Anderson did not put a slur in his movie.
I was say, I watched the Dispatch, and it's not. It doesn't.
Wes Anderson suddenly turns into Tarantino.
Yeah, Wes is flying off the hinges, man.
No, the French Connection. Yeah, but Disney apparently said that the director did that. So that begs the question: what do you think about directors going and revisiting their movies and editing them? I mean, James Cameron does that all the time. He remastered Titanic recently, and he remastered Terminator 2, which he did an awful job on Terminator 2. We all know how that went. But then then you got Ridley Scott, who went in and did the final cut of Blade Runner, and that's like, I think that's an example of a good time when a director did that. But I mean,
even sorry, so go ahead. Sorry.
There's a difference though, right? Like if a director is going in and removing dialogue because it's not culturally sensitive anymore. There's that line there's that, and then there's going in and trying to revise the movie to make it more like, maybe like with Ridley Scott, in the 80s when Blade Runner was made, he didn't have the ability, the technological advances to be able to make the Blade Runner that he wanted to make precisely. So now a few years ago, he did have that technology. So he revisited it and he made the movie he wanted to make in the 80s. But, if Harrison Ford had said a slur in Blade Runner, do you think Ridley Scott would have gone and removed it? And if so, would that have been okay? No, I don't think so. I don't think it would have been okay, and I don't think it's okay for them to remove it from French Connection either, because it's just, you can't censor things that have already released. It's the same concept of book burning.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. We have to have art in this world, and to me, art must come from an honest place, an honest expression. And if you were trying to make a character that is racist, that character, and according to your vision of that character, uses a slur like that, then you should stand behind that, and you shouldn't backpedal or try to edit that or erase that from history 20, 30 years down the line when that lingo might not be appropriate. Because it's so dangerous to me, because it's like, how do we know that a word that we say now in 2023, how do we know that in 2050, that word that's totally normal to us right now, that's in a bunch of our movies right now, how do we know that that word won't be offensive to the future?
It will. 100%. It will. There will always be something that we say or do that will be offensive. There's not even a question there about that. I have a lot to say about this topic. When it comes down to it, if a director wants to re-edit, remaster, revisit their own projects, I say more power to them. Go ahead. Absolutely, go ahead. But you have to make the other versions available. I don't know many streaming services that have the choice between director's cut. I know, like Blade Runner, I think the director's cut is on Netflix, but there should be a way, if Star Wars is on Disney Plus, you should be able to watch the original theatrical versions, the George Lucas revisited versions from like the early 2000s, and then whatever Disney did to them now. Like, you should have access to those things. When it comes down to cutting out insensitive words or topics or sequences from movies, yeah, I mean, we can all think back to when Sam Raimi made the original Spider-Man, and you had advertisements on television that included the Twin Towers. And it was right before 9/11 happened, and Spider-Man webs a helicopter in between the Twin Towers. And right after that happened, that was all pulled. And it was a collective effort to try to erase the Twin Towers as much as possible from that movie. Now, you still see it in certain shots. It's still in the back. They're still in the background sometimes, but a lot of those sequences were scrubbed. And they exist online. You can watch the trailers or the teasers or whatever for them, and that's fine and all good. But that right there, I didn't feel like it hurt the movie whatsoever. Even though this massive travesty happened at the same time, it doesn't hurt the movie. But if you were going to go, I think Drew mentioned Tarantino, if you're going to go back to Reservoir Dogs, his first movie, which is my favorite of his, and basically right when they pick up Mr. Orange, who's played by Tim Roth.
Right? Oh, no.
No, he's Pink.
He's Pinky, yeah. Pink.
There's a whole thing. Why do I have to be fucking pink? Yeah. When they pick up Mr. Orange, who is the undercover cop, spoiler alert, and they're all chatting and getting to know each other in the car, Mr. White says a slur. He says the N-word. And it's one of those things that this character, you may like him, but he's still a bad guy. They're all bad guys. They're all bad people with bad intentions, and they have bad mindsets. So although you may enjoy the movie and you may like these guys from, like, they wear cool suits, and this is kind of a cool, like, they drive cool cars, and and whatever, they're not good people. So it's kind of a reminder to the audience of, yeah, you may like this because like, it's kind of a cool heist movie and it whatever, but they're still bad people. Like, eventually Mr. Blonde is going to cut a police officer's ear off, do 1,000 cuts all over his body, pour gasoline on him and light him on fire. Like, all this stuff is going to happen. He doesn't get lit on fire, but he does get doused in gasoline. Those sorts of things tell the audience that this is still a bad guy. You may like him, or you can go like more recent with Inglorious Bastards, you need to dislike the Nazis, even though you're like, oh my god, this guy is wicked, and I love this character. Meaning, what do they call him? The Jew hunter, something like that. What do they call
You talking about what's his name?
Christoph Waltz
Yeah,
character?
Christoph Waltz. Yeah, I think so.
Um, he is the best character in the entire movie, but you have to hate him. So he's going to say things and do things that you despise, but you still kind of like him.
Right.
There are those moments in movies that the writer, the director has to remind the audience, no matter what is happening in this movie, no matter what misconceptions or whatever feelings you have towards certain characters, there's still a line between bad and good. Maybe Mr. White isn't a bad guy, but he still uses derogatory terms. He still uses all these things that you have to you have to know about it. You have to know, like, oh, you may not want to be around this guy.
It reminds me of
There's
that in Wreck-It Ralph, where he's like, where they're like, just because I'm a bad guy doesn't mean I'm a bad guy. But in these movies, in this case, yeah, they're bad guys, but they're also bad people, man. They're not supposed to be like idolized, like people
absolutely
like
not.
Tony Montana and stuff and Scarface. Yeah, he's a cool character, but he's still dealing cocaine and killing a bunch of people.
Absolutely.
Drew, where do you stand on this? What's your piece on this?
Oh, I mean, there's like two totally different ways. Like when it comes to like editing movies, there's the way you were talking about with Ridley Scott, and even like Francis Coppola when it comes to Apocalypse Now, because there's 3 different versions of that movie. And the last version is the final cut. That's his favorite version. He's like, I took the extended cut, I took the regular cut, and he's like, I took it down, I enhanced things, but he didn't change any of the script or anything. And that's the same with Ridley Scott. He didn't change any of the fucking script. It was just all of like adding to it or making it look better. So when it comes to that, I really don't mind. But I mean, if we really want to talk about like certain words being like you can't say anymore, the early 2000s was filled with the R word. R word this, you are being an R word. It's just that's everyone said that. Everyone said it. Everyone. And then one day people were like, that's like offensive to mentally handicapped people because you're degrading them and making it seem like it's this terrible thing that's just who they are. So now you don't get caught dead saying that. So it's like, are we going to go back to the early 2000s to every single comedy movie that was ever filmed? Basically, I mean, I'm over exaggerating, obviously, but like that was heavily influenced in our culture, that word, for a long time. So it's like, you're not going to know. You're not ever going to know. And I don't think people should go back and change it. I feel like it's almost like a historical thing too. It's like, look at what we were doing and it was wrong and we moved on, and now you can't catch it in a movie unless it's a really, really bad guy that you're not supposed to like that's being a piece of shit.
Right.
So I just think there's certain times where it's needed in a story, and if it makes sense for that story, then I don't see an issue with it. But if it's just people just being just I don't know, if it's just like over the top or whatnot, then obviously like I'm kind of over it. But I don't know. I feel like Tarantino loves riding that line of like making it to where, especially like Django Unchained. I remember when that movie came out, people had such a huge issue with that movie. And even people were asking like Samuel L. Jackson about it. And Samuel L. Jackson, so it was DiCaprio, it was Leonardo. He was really hesitant on saying the N-word that much. He was like, I don't like it. I don't like to say it. And Samuel L. Jackson goes, motherfucker, you're at work. Work. If that's the script and that's what Tarantino wants you to say, then do it. Ain't no one going to give a fuck. And I was like, okay, well, if Samuel L. Jackson is telling you that, then obviously it relates to the story. Like where they are, the location, the time period. People let that word fly because of the time period. Like, it is what it is. It hurts hearing it, of course, but that means you're a good person. If you hear that and you're like, I don't like that,
that's such
you're a
good
person.
Point.
Good job.
That's such a good point. Oh my God, Drew, that's an amazing point.
just leave it at that and enjoy the story for what it is and where you are with the location. And then you just understand that it's bad and you're never going to say it. But in this particular case, it is needed for the story.
Well, even in Django, it's purposefully exaggerated.
Yeah,
exactly. Yes,
it's
very
purposefully exaggerated to like really drill home the point across of like you're supposed to be uncomfortable with this.
Yes,
are you guys uncomfortable with this?
Yes.
Oh, you're not?
Be, yeah.
Well, then you should, I should, look at yourselves if you're not comfortable with this.
I've never really looked at it too much like that. Like that's an eye-opening point, Drew. Like that, yeah. Like these writers and stuff might be putting this in there to intentionally provoke that emotion in you, to make you look at yourself and think, do I feel comfortable with this? Because if I do feel comfortable with hearing this much, then I have a problem. You know, you should, everybody should feel uncomfortable hearing that word, you know, and hearing the R word. And like, back to your point about like how everybody used the R word in 2000s, it was the same with people using the word gay as a slur.
Yeah.
Like,
or the F word.
Yeah. Like everybody, you know, if you don't like something, you say that it's gay. And it's like, that was like every Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 lobby, like period.
Oh, yeah.
And so, it's like one of those things, like, yeah, that's such a good point. To be like, man, if you have such a bad problem with this, then that's probably a good thing, because that means you're a decent human being.
And it comes down to context.
Yeah.
Yes.
So if you're going back to one of those that Drew was talking about, those original 2000 comedies, and they were throwing around, we'll use gay because it's as a queer man, it's easier for me to say. If you're using the word gay, say the bully is calling the main character like, bro, you are so gay. That you're like, oh, that's a bad guy. The bully, like I'm supposed to not like that guy because he's calling the main character gay. But if one of the best friend character, like if we're going to like Michael Cera and Jonah Hill and Superbad, if Jonah Hill's character said, bro, stop being gay, let's go to the party, you're not going to be like, it contextually, it's far different from when the bully says it to when Jonah Hill's character says it.
It's intent. It's intent. He's using that as like a, yes, it is a slur against the LGBTQ crowd.
He's using it negatively, yeah.
But at the same time, he's also like, he's not trying to say that to hurt anybody directly. Like the bully in that movie, in the movie that you're speaking of, hypothetically, that calls the kid gay.
Yeah.
He's actually using that as a weapon. He's weaponizing the word. You know, I mean, who amongst us, and I'm not trying to defend that language nowadays.
Absolutely not.
But who amongst us in our younger years playing some video games or something hadn't been called gay from our friends or whatever, for whatever reason, back when in 2008, 2009, when it was acceptable to say that stuff. Like, we all have. And if you're listening to this and you are within our generation, now if you're one of these more younger kids listening to this, and maybe not, you're probably exempt from this because you grew up in the age where you know better. But if you were on Xbox or just in middle school, high school, and in the mid 2000s, you've been called that word before. You've most likely called other people that word before. Like, it's just a fact of life. But now that we've all sufficiently been canceled, gentlemen, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank you for coming to the last ever episode of Masters of Matinee. It's been a great run for 5 episodes. We will see you later.